Yes, you are.
She got 80k. How did she get this much damage to this build? Well, hello there. That's a little too zoomed in. I think Chasca is a very weird character. She's very interesting because, just in case you didn't know, yes, she is an animal unit, except she's lying to you. She doesn't really do meaningful animal damage. Don't do animal DPS, Chasca, okay? So she basically has a passive that counts the pyro, hydro, cryo, electro units in your party, and when you're holding normal attacks, she charge up, loads bullets into her big ol' silly gun here, and you get random different element types of damage with a bunch of like big charge attack shots. That's basically her whole kit. She is not an animo DPS. She is the game's first and only, for now, rainbow DPS unit. She does a bunch of different elements of damage, and you know, the reaction system in the game means like, okay, one character being able to do a bunch of different elements of damage, like, okay, how many reactions can Chasca trigger, right? If you have a pyro, hydro, electro teammate with her, you can do vaporize, overload. You know, obviously you can do swirls. By the way, she does do some animal bullets, so you do swirl reactions, which is nice. And I do, by the way, have like a normal. This is my normal Chasca build with Thundering Pulse, C0 Chasca. Although we might go into my brother's account later because he has C1 Chasca. There might be things to do with that, but you know, this is a pretty dang good Chasca build, right? And I did a whole stream using Chasca the normal way. This video I'm going to focus on doing unconventional things with her, because I'm most curious in exploring the value of elemental mastery on her. This stat, just in case you're not aware, increases your reaction damage, right? And if she's doing different elements of damage, she can trigger different reactions, and therefore hopefully take some weird value out of the elemental mastery stat. And yes, you don't need to go to the comments right now. I mean, you can if you want, but I do understand the problems with this. We'll get into it. So we're gonna try something like using this timepiece for my Mualani. Okay, so there's a couple ways we go about this. We could try doing like a full EM thing, and I think I will do full EM. For example, because I have weird artifacts like around my Kachina that are EM with crit substats on Scroll of Cinder City, so she could buff the off-fielder damage while doing some talent damage herself, as well as the reaction-based damage from Elemental Mastery. But anyways, we could also just stick to Obsidian Codex, right? I don't have an EM circlet on Obsidian Codex, so I think I'll just stick to this circlet, and then I'll do like an EM goblet maybe. Although I don't have an onset EM goblet, which means I probably have to switch from this really good flower to this not as good flower, but oh well. And then I will yoink my Raiden's wonderful goblet, blam. And now the stats, we'll look at the weapon in a second. Stats though look like, okay, 90%, the same amount of crit, but we have a lot lower attack. But a whole bunch of elemental mastery means, you know, when we trigger certain reactions, those reactions are going to be very amplified. Now, there's the question of, do I switch to a different weapon on her? I think we'll try this weapon with the other artifact set, because it'll be interesting. For now, I'm going to leave her, I think, on this, like, normal build, with the only difference being, like, the main stats of the goblet and the timepiece, right? I have no idea what's going to happen here. We'll find out. I suppose the first thing we should probably check, honestly, is just a normal Chasca team. Like, I already know how this team feels with Chasca on a normal build, so I'll be able to get a gauge for, like, okay, is it worse, better, is it mostly the same? Right, and then we'll get into more unconventional things after we do this little brief test. So when I was fighting this dude before, I was pretty consistently in this team killing it with one sequence of her charge attacks. Now, Chasca has RNG on the order for her bullets loading in, and that, honestly, you know what's funny? It's almost exactly the same as doing double attack main stats. It was definitely slightly worse, but what I was trying to mention before is the RNG on her bullet order basically makes it so that you can't necessarily consistently trigger anything you want, because if you count from right to left, the first bullet, so you see pyro bullet there, and then you see the third bullet in the electro bullet, those are the ones that are actually applying a reaction. Applying an element which can trigger a reaction. What exact reaction would depend on what the enemy has on them at a given time. But yeah, I don't know if I expected exactly the same, not exactly the same, but like, I don't know if I expected almost exactly the same damage to be the result here. Now, exactly the same damage is kind of a bad result, to be clear. And the reason for that is, like, EM main stats are rarer than attack main stats, right? And worse is worse. Like, when I've been doing this previously, using her burst, I was able to like damage these dudes in a rotation rather than having to use it for the first enemy. So it is worse, but not like significantly so in a way that I think would like crazily change your clear times, which is kind of interesting. I don't know, and like how much value Elemental Mastery have will still definitely vary a little bit in a particular situation. So that was kind of an interesting, slightly unexpected result, right? Exactly the same as not normally what you would expect by changing the stats on a build that much. And but it's cool at least because that means I think she has pretty high flexibility potentially in how she is built. So like let's try, for example, switching back to an attack goblet. But then how about I do an off-piece circlet with a bunch of EM like this? Right. So I have 2,000 attack, but 319 EM. But let's see what this attack and EM, so a middle of the road approach, if this does anything different. So we got Pyro and Electro Bullet there, Electro and Hydro. It's almost exactly the same again. I think really what this says is that the buffers we're using with Chasca matter maybe more than the exact stats we choose to put on her for the main sets of artifacts, which is interesting. But I'm going to do this a couple more times just because like the RNG of what bullets load might... Yeah, like so you can see it had slightly lower health that time. And of course there's RNG on crits. My point is that, you know... There's weirdness to RNG you can do with Chasca. Her overall gameplay is simple, but depending on the exact situation, you can optimize around her bullet and how many like of different bullet types you get. This enemy is more resistant to to Hydro, so if we get more Hydro bullets, it takes less damage, right? So there's ways you can do weird optimizations for this. Let me switch back to my original build here quick. I want to show this because while this still has its own RNG, right, on the reactions we trigger, this attack focus build is probably going to be able to kill this dude with 4 charge attacks on her, and therefore the burst would be safe. Yep, you can see it's a little bit better. Interesting result that it's not crazily different, but nonetheless it does mean, yeah, as expected, it's kind of worse, and it's because she's not actually triggering that many reactions with her big attacks. But there still is the interesting potential that she has with the other artifact set, which we're going to do with a full EM build. And this, I am much more uncertain how it's going to go. Switch to Tignari's weapon, and we have 576 EM, 1400 attack. Well, I'm just going to let her be overcap crit rate slightly. This means we don't need Oron on the scroll set, since we don't need 2 versions of the similar buff going on in the same artifact set. But we'll try something like this first. And you know what, actually, I like Yai. I don't think there's going to be that much difference between Yai and Fischl here. I doubt this is going to clear faster, but part of me would be extremely, extremely happy if it did. We'll find out. Bam. Bam. Let's see what happens. Bullseye. What damage are we even getting from her? It's really hard to tell. You know what's funny? It's like almost the same again as what the previous one was. No matter what build I use on my Chasca, she does the same exact things. Which is, like, she's an RNG DPS that's weirdly consistent despite goofy builds. It can be considered a good thing and a bad thing in that, like, there's not that much to do creatively if everything is the same, right? Like, what's actually the point of doing this is if the end result is the same. It's simultaneously fun to test this kind of thing, but just really weird to just see that despite wildly changing things in the build, the end result is nothing. My Yai is getting 20k from off field, very nice. And that's just, yeah, it's the same as before, but wherein it's slightly worse than a normal build for her. I think what this tells me is I need to get more unconventional with the teams, right? So enough Furina Bennett things. We want to snapshot both Fischl, I think, and Rosaria here. Although Rosaria's damage isn't as important as mentioned because her build isn't as good, but bam, I don't know, let's see. We got Superconduct there. And this is definitely a lot worse damage. think a lot of that is just a side effect of it's just we lost Furina more than, you know, the fact that we're doing a weird build, right? I think this is indicative of the problem that I expected, wherein the fact that Chasca only applies 2 of a random elements in her bullet attacks when she's doing her shots here just kind of makes there not be much value to doing anything specific on her, because you can't do anything specific on her. At least with C0. I think the thing we need to consider is doing something like Dendro with her. And I think Emily is actually a really interesting example here. We can do Emily plus Chasca, and then we'll throw in Bennett still, because we want some amount of pyro for Emily to burn. And we don't need off-field pyro, because Chasca, even with her like inconsistent pyro application, we don't need constant burning happening for Emily to keep her level 2 skill. We just need it happening like every 8 seconds. So as long as we're semi-consistently getting pyro application from Chasca, I think we should be able to use Emily to her fullest potential. You know, we can take extra value from Chasca being on an EM build, both because, you know, she'll increase, say, the burning damage, which is a transformative reaction. But if we have, you know, a Hydro unit generating bloom cores, you know, Chasca can, you know, swirl pyro around and trigger bloom cores and trigger burgeon, right? Like more like Dendro, in case you didn't know, is really strong for doing weird transformative reaction things. The question is, like, will we actually get enough pyro to consistently do like anything? My suspicion is at C0, this is not going to work. This should become pretty clear quite quickly, I believe. Do that, do this, and we'll go into her skill, and bam, and blam, and blam. Do you see the issue? Now, we're actually doing surprisingly okay damage, honestly, all things considered. Look at our bullets, right? We had 3 elemental bullets there, only 2 there, 3 there, right? We're getting 3 elemental bullets or 2 elemental bullets instead of 4 consistently. That's what happens when you bring a non-pyro hydro cryo or electro teammate in. You are punished pretty heavily for Chasca's ability to both apply more elements herself, because we're missing out on that 3rd bullet. So we're going to go over to my brother's account, and we're going to test this same team with C1. Now, on my brother's account, it's not going to be a one-to-one comparison by any means, because he doesn't have the same artifacts I do necessarily. That would be a bit weird. We do have level 2 skill on Emily this time. Like, the damage actually isn't terrible here, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, I just think it's like way too RNG, and Chasca's damage is just extremely nerfed. And there's more I could probably explore with C0 Chasca here, but I did testing off camera, and I can tell you that I'm quite confident that her shenanigan potential is probably locked behind this. But I might be wrong. Maybe it will just be mostly the same. Okay, so my brother, by the way, he has C1 because he continued wishing for Oron, even though I told him not to. And yeah, he only got C2 Oron despite going for whatever, this game. He has a pretty good build on Chasca going right now. By the way, he also went to pity and got her signature weapon, but it's not leveled yet. But anyways, we're not doing normal Chasca things. Boring. I'm going to have to go look through his artifacts, try to reconfigure his build. Now, my brother does not have Tignari's weapon, of course, so we should check what his scroll artifacts look like, though, because that's probably more important than the weapon. He never got any EM typees. Oh, he has this one. Well, okie dokie then. Wow. It means I think we're going to go to a two-piece build. So I want to do an EM focus build, right? How truly relevant is this C1 extra application for the purpose of triggering more reaction damage, right? You know what? Screw it. Let's try VV on her. EM circlet, EM timepiece. We had this cracked attack percent goblet. I figure, you know, we'll do 1 attack percent piece. And then I stole like Coswa, Flower, and Feather. What does the build look like? Weird. That's the answer. It has 500 EM. She'll get some crit damage still, and it'll be a good test. Alright. Let's see how this goes. It's gonna be Alright, don't die before I do anything, sir. Alright. You can see we just got, yeah, we have guaranteed 3 bullets, but I believe it's RNG for a 4th bullet. Wait, we're always getting 4 bullets. That was, by the way, really good. I feel like okay, yes, because what was happening before was we had 2 with an RNG chance for 3rd, we have the first part of the C1, which is the 5th bullet, and then the conversion thing guarantees it. So we get guaranteed 4 bullets despite having a Dendro unit in the team. Like, we're always getting 2 instances of application. Oh, my brother hasn't done any... Oh, my dude. Look at my brother's characters. You think this dude can't clear Abyss? He can clear Abyss. He just doesn't try. BRB after I finish killing a bunch of innocent creatures. Look, see? We can trigger the virgins consistently. Oh my gosh. Like, we're triggering so many more reactions so much more consistently. Oh. But anyways, I should definitely hold my judgment until I actually fight real content with her. Not the enemies that just die instantaneously. By the way, she's definitely not ideal in AoE because... Did she just get a 70k pyro hit, by the way? What? She has 100 crit damage. She got a 70k pyro hit? On this build? On VV? What?
I'm good. Yes, you are.
She got 80k. How did she get this much damage to this build?
I do. Let's do this then.
Man, the Virgin's triggering on her is so freaking fun. Oh, like I kind of love this team with C1. It works. It absolutely works, and it works well. Oh, but anyway, we're not on floor 412 yet. We'll see. Like, a weird thing happens where like I'm seeing some extra buildup of the bloom cores because of there's still inconsistency, right, in what application that Chasca's actually doing. Like whether or not she gets a pyro swirl determines whether or not you can actually get any like big bloom virgin. But like it makes the weird variability of her application super fun. It's like you just like don't know what it's like a slot machine roulette of like what kind of explosion of reactions are you gonna trigger is what this team feels like right now. Alright, finally on floor 12. I already feel like it has actually exceeded my expectations. How much C1 does for making her be able to trigger more reactions. See how this goes. Oh, I should have done the setup differently for Emily to start the burning happening, but whatever, it'll be fine. That might help there. Okay, and let's go to town. Like, let's see the virgins we can trigger. And we get vaporizers there. Like, she just got a 70k hit on a VV build with 100. Like, what? Like, this is such a bad build and we almost killed it. Like, I need to emphasize, compared to what you saw with a C0 Chasca on my main account, right? This is a really bad build for Chasca's, like, own talent damage. And it's actually just, like, working. What? That just didn't hit? That was weird. Oh my god. Like, look! 500 EM on a BB build! Ow. Alright, I don't know whether to be exceedingly happy about this or sad with the fact that it feels locked behind C1. Like... Oh. I feel like some people might be inclined to think it was just because of the fact that my Chasca wasn't level 90 in my account. But no, it's like level 90 doesn't do anything. Like, well, it does increase reaction damage, right? By the way, this thing is Dendro resistance, so of course this team is going to perform a little bit worse against this dude. But anyways, like level 90 helps the reaction damage, but it's not going to help. Oh, I didn't mean to go sprint by accident. Level 90 is going to help reaction damage, of course, but it's not going to help trigger more reactions, right? She needs to have the application to trigger the reactions in the first place. These enemies are kind of interesting with Chasca because you'll want more hydro bullets to be able to trigger vaporizes against them since you get free vaporizes. Oops, let's not die with Emily. Not ideal. This... that. So, again, like, let's see what happens, right? We, I don't know, it's like... how underwhelming of a build we are as far as like Chasca's own talent damage and still how well this is performing is like, yeah, I don't know. Right. I don't know, this team is so fun. Like, it's the perfect mix of like virgins and and oops, well, I'm stupid. And bam. Like, it's so satisfying triggering so many more reactions on her. And again, that was with this weird VV build. Like, this was the build. 500 EM, 1800 attack. Like, what? Why this character is so much more fun with C1. Like, it kind of kills me that she's this much more fun with C1. Why couldn't she be this fun with C0? Okay, I'm going to put her back on normal build for this next instance. Other than, I think I'll change the goblet. I'll do normal build with, like, attack timepiece, crit damage circlet. But instead of an attack goblet like normal, I'm going to go see what we have for EM goblets. Because I still want to have some, like, an EM focus build. It's, like, the main thing I wanted to, like, play around with this. It's good enough. So we have 207 EM, 1000. Oh, wait, we need to switch the weapon. Don't forget that. I would use our signature here since we are on Codex now, but we'll use this instead. So, hey, it's more relatable at least. 207 EM. We'll have 86 crit rate, 175 crit damage. I guess before we test Auron, let's test how this same team performs. It should be an interesting comparison of a slightly different format for a build, right? We have lower EM. We're not buffing Furina's damage in this instance, of course. And like buffing Furina's damage is potentially like very good, of course. So it's weird. We have level 2 on her skill. That's interesting. It kind of seems worse, like substantially so than with VV. Well, there is a little bit of a problem, of course, of when you're bringing Hydro into a team with Emily. You do have to manage her stuff a little bit. In the case of Chasca, we just have to, get more Pyro application. If we don't get Pyro application, did I not Bennett buff? If we don't get Pyro application, then it's, not ideal. Let's see, we need to have, burning happening with some consistency, and then we're perfectly fine. Ow. I also need to not get hit like that. By the way, that's just a matter of you gotta strafe a little bit. So yeah, the damage isn't crazily different with her on this build versus the VV build, but the VV build felt stronger, which is kind of crazy considering how the VV build was. I suspect that this one basically won't have to worry at all about Emily uptime. Well, that. And then we do this, that, this, and then we start chasking. Of course, do want to, like, the nice thing about not doing Furina in Chasca teams, you don't have to worry about, like, managing Furina healing for the team. So, let's do this. It definitely seems like it's less damage than the Furina variant. That's not that surprising, but it's also definitely not bad at all. Oh, of course. Get a Bennett skill off there. Alright, let's do that, this, that. Alright, do that. Just fuddle a little bit here. But yeah, this is like not bad at all, honestly. Right? I didn't even use Emily. Well, I can use Emily Burst here, I guess. I don't know, right? The aspect of come on, bye, dude. Yeah, the aspect of how this changes her utility by giving her so much more flexibility, getting these guaranteed 4 elemental bullets, right? The same amount of elemental bullets you get at C0, but now you can do like a flex element. You could do Shalonen instead if you want to just do like a more simple like raw buffing thing, right? Like I don't think I'm getting anywhere near like the full extent of what I think you can do with Chasca C1 more than C0 as far as team composition goes. I don't know, it just like mostly works pretty dang well. And, like, I have Chasca on a, the 4-star bow here with a, probably unoptimal build still, I imagine. Like, I feel like this is super interesting, and it makes her so much more interesting of a character. I really want this C1 on my main account. I don't know. Let me know what you think I should do in the comments below. Like you can see the aggravates we're getting. It's so fun. Of course, this doesn't do really anything about fixing Chasca's AoE problem. Okay, the C1 does in the context of the burning or the Burgeon team, but in this team, of course, it's not really AoE. I mean, Overload is some AoE damage, but not in the same way that Burgeon can be. Well, I don't know. It's not that different since they now buffed the Overload reaction, actually. But yeah, the real loss is, Furina's damage potential is quite significant. I think the damage that Can you die, please? Really? Dude? I think the damage that Chasca herself is contributing in this team is not that different from the Furina team. It's just the difference of Furina's own damage contribution and Furina buff, of course. Like, we're getting less buffing in this team, so of course the team is worse, I think. Ow? But it also is a little bit easier to play, because you don't really have to think about the Hydro stuff and optimizing around Emily's stuff. Oh my god, don't die again, don't die again, don't do it, don't do it. Alright, do this, and do... Bang. Oh, I didn't even get the shot off. Okay, this has been a weird mess of a video. It hasn't gone exactly how I expected. Well, how I expected. Like, I expected C1 to unlock her, like, true potential for doing weird reaction shenanigans. I just didn't expect it to be as good as it was. And that's kind of the takeaway here. Seeing how good just the brief little bit of stuff I did with Emily. Like, we didn't get into, like, weirdness with Nahida, whatever. Right. Like, there's all kinds of things my brain is going to now at just seeing the results of my, like, testing in this video. It makes her, like, so much more fun of a character. Like, if you watch my live stream, like, you can see, like, me using her normally. I got pretty bored of her and didn't have much team flexibility for, you know, doing fun shenanigans with different reactions in the game, right? Like, she felt too restrictive in her team comps. But C1 changes that. You can see, like, these results of, like, weird things you can do with Dendro, right? Like, I don't know. It's really unfortunate that this character that can apply different elements has such restrictive team compositions in her base kit, and C1 is what is necessary to, like, start doing that, right? Like, it's cool that it's possible, but this feels like a different character to me at C1. At least for the kind of player I am, right? As someone who likes to mess around with different reactions. This is not to say she is a bad character at C0. It just, I don't know. I don't know how to evaluate it. You let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. It was a surprising result for the concept of just testing around her on an EM build. C0 was as I expected, where she just doesn't apply enough elements to have, like, that much of a reason to actually build EM on her. I would love to find something that was similar to my experience with C1, but that works at C0. I think I might go for C1 on my main account, but I'm going to think it over, because it means sacrificing my guarantee for the Pyro Archon, who is, you know, probably going to be fairly useful, I suspect. I'm a content creator, so, like, I can afford that decision, but I don't think it's a particularly healthy decision to make if you were in the same situation. It's just like why'd they have to do that? This is like the worst case of constellations changing how a character can be used that I've ever experienced. Take of this what you will. I thought this was a very fun video to explore different things in the mechanics of this character. I'm conflicted. Like, I genuinely think this is one of the most fun teams ever, and it's at the strength of the fact that this is already a really fun core without Chasca, but Chasca is almost like a perfect on-fielder for it. And the weird, like, roulette of, like, do you get the Pyro Swirl for the Burgeons? If you don't get the Pyro Swirl for the Burgeons, it probably means you get a big Vaporize, and it's just, oh, it's so cool. It's actually, like, really fun. But whatever. I need to stop gushing about this team. It's going to make me make a decision before I should properly think it over.